Hey there, this is Damon Lasher, bringing to you some sweet Necromancer PvP footage. I'm running a Pocket Necromancer spec, which is to say it's more suited to team play than solo play, but it performs decent on its own as well. If you want the traits, just check the description or watch the whole video. During the video, there are some things I assume you know as a Guild Wars 2 player, but I will revisit everything in the recap at the end, however, to help out newer players. A lot of people are of the opinion that Necros are very pub-stompy or not viable at all. At first I had the same issues. I was unable to really take down any other experienced players at all, and I didn't have any longevity to survive. The Necromancer takes some getting used to once you've mastered using their crowd controls and going in and out of your Death Shroud. You have a much better time with the class. I use my Locust here while chasing the Ranger, for example, to speed myself up so I can keep up with the Ranger and cripple him as he's trying to make an escape rather than fight. As I mentioned before, this is a support spec, so your offensive capabilities won't be as high. This part of the video will be sped up as it's a rather boring 1v1 between me and the Ranger. I gained the advantage at the end, but it's largely just me using CC to prevent him from putting too much damage on me and trying to put damage on him whenever I can. In this spec, you should be taking the staff with a Hydromancy sigil, and in your second weapon set, you should be taking the axe and warhorn with a critical hit sigil on the axe and whatever you wish on the warhorn. The Hydromancy sigil allows you to create a Frost Nova effect as you swap to that weapon, and apply chill to foes who are hit by it. This allows you to kite and chase very well with the weapon. The axe is your primary weapon for adding damage and as such should have the critical sigil. I haven't really figured out an optimal sigil for the warhorn yet. For your heal skill, you'll be taking the Well of Blood in order to help keep yourself alive and allies healthy in team fights. This will also help them get back to full HP faster after you res them from a down state. For your utility, you'll be taking Corrupt Boon to ensure that there will be no saving that poor soul your team has decided to kill. You'll also be taking Signet of Locust to be slightly more agile and gain back a huge chunk of health in a large team fight. Lastly, Spectral Armor will help you on gaining your initial life force pool up to a sizable level and give you some damage reduction while it's up. I see someone approaching here, so I decide I'm going to lay down some marks in order to halt his progress. I put down a fear at the top of the bridge, hoping to knock him off of it. I turn around and see that he might have been able to get past it, so I put up a frost mark, but then he ends up jumping that but lands on the floor. So I go and check up on the clock tower to make sure it's being taken without any issues. I take a look at the windmill as well now, and it looks like we're taking that without any issues as well, so I go to check about the mansion. However, I see that the clock tower is being contested, so I quickly head back in order to see what's going on. As I arrive, it seems like one of my allies has gone down, and so I quickly switch to my staff, put down some marks in order to put down some CC, and switch into my Death Shroud form. In my Death Shroud form, I fear and I use my life drain in order to stall for some time, put some damage on them while my cooldowns on my staff come off. After I pop back out, I put down some more marks. My fear has come off cooldown, as you can see. I put one of them on fear, continue to put up my Spectral Armor, I use my Signet in order to gain some life back, and I switch to my Warhorn and Axe set. I put up Locust Swarm right before I enter into Death Shroud so I can put down cripple and damage around people, and then I pop fear and some life drain again. Mainly I use my Death Shroud form in order to put some CC and damage on and stall for time for my cooldowns. I switch back to my staff. I see that I have managed to down him, but I'm taking a lot of damage here. So I put down marks, I retreat out and try to stall for some time. The thief follows me out. I pop back into Death Shroud form. I use life drain and my fear, trying to stall for some more time as he stealths. And I pop out of my Death Shroud form and put down a bunch of marks between me and him in order to try to stall for some time and CC them. He pops all of my marks, which is a big mistake for him. As you can see, he takes a lot of damage. Disrupt him with my number 4, put up my Death Locust, pop back into Death Shroud form, and put a huge amount of damage onto him. He goes down now, but his ally has managed to revive himself, and so I end up taking a down here. While I did die here, I managed to stall for a lot of time as my team took the point advantage. It took 2 players in order to neutralize me, and at the very end, I brought both of them off point. It's important to understand that the main goals of Conquest format, as many players become very focused on kills. While kills do give you points in the format, if you take too much time to kill and or are distracted from an objective, it's not worth it anymore. As such, the primary focus of Conquest is to capture objectives, then use your players more efficiently than they do. In this case, as one player, I stall 2 for a lengthy period away from the point. As a Necromancer, you excel at stalling and holding people down for your allies. In higher levels of play, the Necromancer can function in either group for a 3-2 split, with 2 cripples, a daze in one weapon set, and 4 marks of CC and or team and utility in the other. The Necromancer is an invaluable support offensive class. So over here, after I've taken this point, I decide to go back to the clock tower. On this map especially, I should be alternating between one point and the clock tower, because the Necromancer functions best in very large team fights. So I'm heading up, I don't see any enemies, but I decide to camp around the corner and check who's on the clock tower before heading in. I see the warrior, so I put down a mark in case he tries to jump out of the window towards me. I get in there, put down some fear, put down some frost. As my allies arrive, I know we're going to win this fight. So I put down some damage, I try to stack some vulnerability, I disrupt by using my daze, I cripple, and then I continue to stack vulnerability on the warrior. I put on my Locust to help cripple him some more as he's around. He's putting some pressure onto my ally, so I'm trying to help my ally kite as much as possible. I put fear onto him as he knocks down my ally so he can't finish the combo, and I use life drain as I see someone around the staircase. They all avoid the fight, so we finish capping up the clock tower, but I see we've lost the other points, so I quickly head out to check on what I can do. I failed to jump here onto the pipe. Kind of sucks, but that's alright. And me and an ally head towards the windmill. I use Locust between points when there's no enemies around, just to gain that swiftness to get to a point faster to start the cap. I look around and I see an enemy that might be heading here, so I stick around before moving out. Otherwise, I would let my one ally finish the cap. Now it looks like he's disappeared. I head back to the clock tower as I see we've lost control over it. I take a bit of a shortcut there, as you can see. You can jump over these brushes instead of heading all the way around them, and I always take these staircases because it allows me to see who's in the clock tower before going in. I see that the ranger is here and I put up my Locust before going in. I quickly swap to my other set, put frost down on him as I miss my Hydromancy proc, and put down some more CC on him as we're going after him and trying to drive him off the point. I put on Locust for him, I get close to him, the warrior comes and tries to knock me down and sets me up for a combo, but I pop into Death Shroud and I use my abilities in order to CC him away from me. Whenever there are numerous foes around you as a Necromancer, you don't always need to pop into Death Shroud, but when you do, you should be using your number 4 skill in order to drain as much life force as possible. Remember that it's a channeled skill, so don't panic and don't cancel it when you don't need to be. It's on a very long cooldown, as it should be, as it's a very powerful ability. I chase the warrior here down as there are a couple of us and we've managed to secure the clock tower, and I just put up my Locust form to chase him down as well. I quickly switch to my staff as I have swiftness. I put down some marks so he can't run away. I chain my fear, I put some more damage on him, and we finish him now. After finishing him, I head back up to the clock tower as it's a good vantage point for me to check on how everything is going. No one's in the clock tower, I pop on out. Pop into the other side because I want to get to the mansion as it's the only capture point that we don't have left. Jump onto the rooftop so I don't have to walk all the way around. And I head up to the mansion. I see that no one is here immediately, but as I quickly turn around, I see that one of my allies is being chased, so I put a couple marks up on the staircases, just behind them so he can't see them as he's coming in. Warrior knocks me down and gets disabled right before he's able to use his combo. Put up my fear and use life drain, but he managed to still chunk up a large part of my life force with his 100 blade skill. I put down my well of blood as I see we're going to be in a pretty big team fight here and we're taking a lot of damage. I pop into my lich form finally because I have an ally here. The Lich form is not very good for fighting a one-on-many situation, however is very good when you're fighting with an ally. You're able to put out a lot of damage, some small CC, but this is your most damaging form as a Necromancer. So over here, I see that my ally is down, but I'm able to finish off the Thief and my ally rallies. This is the guide portion of my video. Your number 1 on your axe gives you vulnerability when you hit them with it. Number 2 is multiple strikes, that gives you life force. Number 3, it's a small point blank AoE, gets you retaliation and cripples whoever you hit. Wheel of Doom is your cone daze. Locust form is your aura that grants you swiftness and cripples those around you. I've already talked about your utilities before. Your Lich form will be your elite skill, as it's the most powerful in my opinion out of all the Necromancer elites. Death Shroud is your F1 skill, and it'll probably be the most important to you as a budding Necromancer player. Dark Path sends out a claw, and if it hits them you teleport and it chills them. Doom makes everyone around you get feared, and Life Transfer is it transfers a lot of life force from opponents' health to you. If you send out your Dark Path and then go out of your Death Shroud, it'll still teleport you to them and chill them. Spiteful Spirit is pretty nice as well, grants retaliation when you enter Death Shroud. There's not much up for discussion when it comes to these traits, except for the final one on the Spite Tree. You can take the Spinal Shivers one if you feel that your team's good and you're confident in their ability. Mark of Evasion, leave a mark of blood when you dodge, help the team out, create a well of blood when you revive an ally. Currently not working, but will be amazing when it is. Create a Reaper's Mark when reviving someone. Reaper's Mark is the mark that creates fear. Life Force drains slower in Death Shroud, so you can maximize that time in your Death Shroud. So that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and look forward to seeing more from me. Thanks again for watching. Leave a comment and rate.